Welcome, my alumni friends. My name's Jim Wright. I'm the Director of Alumni Services, and again, grateful to be back on another Friday for our broadcast. We Recovery Made Real is such an important uh, uh, a tagline for us in regards to all the different themes that we will continually work in and out of with recovery. Plus, the fact is that we can actually come to you virtually. And if you're not here today with us, please, we welcome you to open up our Gateway Facebook page in addition to our YouTube channel. So we want you to connect. Um, you know, we have a wonderful topic here, and it goes hand in hand with the weekend. And it's, mother's experience in recovery, mother's role, the figure, different things like that. So, mother's role, or I would think, your motherhood experience in recovery. My mother had a huge impact with my own personal recovery. And today we have a special guest from our Lake Villa facility, and she is currently a counselor for our men's unit there. Welcome, Kelli.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you here today. I feel like I've gotten to know you just a few times that we met, right, during the obviously everything changed with the pandemic, but now we're coming together every couple of weeks to rally the troops, our current clients, to be able to talk about alumni relations. So with that being said, why don't you give us a little share with us a little bit about your motherhood story, your experience in recovery.
Okay. Like I said, thank you for having me on here. So currently right now, as Jim said, I am the main SOD staff on duty at the men's program here in Lake Villa, which is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful campus. If you've ever been, it's gorgeous. If you haven't, come visit us. But I've been here about a year. I'll be here actually a year on Tuesday, May 11th. I came in the middle of the pandemic. And I have sort of a unique experience, I want to say, with running the men's program as a female, being that I raised 3 boys. And I was a single mom, and raising 3 boys was a little bit of a challenge, especially since it wasn't a situation where there was a divorce. It was more of a situation where I was suddenly widowed. And it was a little bit of a challenge to deal with that. And I dealt with some of my own challenges as far as coping skills, which were not, I didn't have very good professional coping skills to deal with sort of that whole experience. But I am able to talk about both the before and after. And I really do prefer to talk a little bit more about the after, because that's what we're going for here. We are going for you guys to be in recovery. And I know that with being a mother in recovery, there are unique challenges, especially when it comes to child care issues and trying to get to meetings and doing, juggling everything and still trying to use your coping skills. And that's what's so wonderful about this whole Gateway program is that we have this continuing stuff to go on, and which is very, very, very needed. My experience here at Gateway has been wonderful, I have to say. I do talk a little bit about the fact that I have 3 boys. They are grown boys. They're 24, 25, and 30 years old. I also have 2 beautiful grandchildren and a 3rd one on the way. And yeah, a granddaughter will be born hopefully in November. God willing, all goes well. But yeah, so I have, like I said, I have some unique experience. But when I sort of began my journey into this recovery realm, my boys were a little younger. My oldest one had already pretty much grown up. He was 21, fully an adult by the time I entered my recovery journey. But my youngest one was 13. And it's really interesting because the way that they grew up is completely like, it was like they were raised by two different moms. One was definitely not fully physically present, and the other one is a little bit more present these days. And luckily, I mean, my youngest son is currently working for Abbott Labs, and he's on track for some good things there. And my oldest son is a CNC machinist, and so he's more of a hands-on type guy, whereas my younger one's more of a studious type guy. They're just completely different in their personalities, but yet they're both doing very, very, very well, and are doing well with me in recovery. I don't know. I think a recovery journey is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And, the benefits are not just for yourself, but for your family as well. And there's nothing better than having a parent. And I've experienced this as well, having a parent in recovery also. And it's as much as it can be a challenge to be a mother in recovery, it's way more rewarding, because you're present and you're available and you're there for the children. So, Jim?
Yeah, sure. No, that's fine. I was thinking the role that my mother had in my own family. I don't know if she was an enabler, but she used to drink with my dad. My dad would go on the road for 3 weeks at a time, and he would come home, and all I remember is that the kids, I have a brother and sister, the three of us were told to leave the room. And so they were, my dad had to get down and obviously catch up with anything that we had to do as kids, or what we didn't do as kids, for the chores and all the things responsible. But it was such a big deal, and the fact was that my mom just kind of hung out with my dad, and she didn't really even like to drink alcohol, but that's what took place. My question to you is that your mom today, do you have an okay relationship with her based on your own recovery? How's that going?
Well, I'm not going to lie. It has definitely been a rough ride between my mom and I. Mom definitely, this disease is genetic. There's no question about it. And she had a few bumps in the road during her journey, which it kind of affected my recovery journey in a lot of ways, because it's sort of my perception was different as far as like that recovery didn't work necessarily. But today my mom and I have a really good relationship. Sometimes it comes down to, though, even having maybe healthier and being able to set some good boundaries too. So yeah, but we have a really, really good relationship now, but it really was rocky for a long time. First with her use, and then also, of course, with mine. Once she became sort of more sober and on the recovery journey, my disease progressed. So there was a lot of disconnect there for a while, and with more butting heads type thing. I think mothers and daughters tend to do that more. Mothers and sons are a little bit more, I think there's more of that bond there.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. When my life changed dramatically, 27 years ago, in the middle of that, the fact was I told my mom what was happening. And I told her that, I was highly suggested to me to go into some kind of recovery. And I remember her actually suggesting to one of our employees of this company that we were part of at that time. And I called that 12-step group, and you know what? They said they could come and get him. And I remember telling my mom that I have a problem with alcohol. And so she never really took that personally, but she says, what did I do wrong as a mother? Does your mom feel that same way, about your own recovery?
It's, that's a really good topic that you just sort of touched on there, Jim, because I think for moms in particular, overall, is the guilt and shame that keeps us the disease for a long time. Yes, absolutely. The guilt and the shame keeps, and yes, there's definitely that on both ends, from my mother and as well as for me, for my children. There's that guilt and that shame. The cool thing though is that working a program of recovery, you can get through that. You can sort of start mending those fences, and like, I think the last amends I actually performed was my mother's, because there was so many dynamics involved in that particular journey, but it does get healed. That's the cool thing about it. The relationships and everything become stronger, and things get healed, and you can sort of start processing through some of that guilt and that shame. Yeah, definitely.
Now, okay, so I've got a question here for you, which is a good one. The fact that you decided to become a full-time counselor, what was the process there for you? Did you think, okay, I'm sober and I want to go help people, or how did that all come about?
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. No, absolutely not. I was not that was not on my radar at all. I will say this much. I'll go a little bit back and say, when I first wanted to go away to school, back when I was a little girl, I always wanted to sort of be a teacher, right? And that was my thing. And then I was going to, I had this whole dream and all that. Well, things don't exactly go the way that our plan goes, so things got a little different. Anyway, when my kids were very little, I started working for a company and was working overnights while my husband was home with them. And I worked my way out the ladder, especially after my husband passed away, and was able to raise my 3 kids on this job that I had had for a long time. The job actually was part of my recovery journey, and they had noticed that there was something off with me and suggested that I get some help. And that was the time that it really did stick. So I was working for them for still several years after getting sober. And then I was in a bad car accident. Throughout the process of that, there was some health issues and stuff like that. Anyway, I ended up not being able to return to work for the company that I thought I was going to retire from.
Right.
And so bottom line was, I fell into a depression. I fell into a funk because I pretty much lost everything. And this was in sobriety. I lost my house. I lost my job. I lost my car. I lost everything. Was homeless. And I remember one day my oldest son, was coming over to visit with my granddaughter. She was brand new baby. And I hadn't gotten out of bed in weeks. And I got up and I was getting ready because they were coming over. So I got up, I got showered, I got all together, and I said out loud, God, I need a purpose. And when I said that very night, when I was on my computer just trying to kill time, insomnia or whatever, I found an advertisement for a halfway house manager for a job. And I thought, I can do that. I have managerial experience. I have sobriety. I have the sobriety requirements that are needed. And I started working for a women's halfway house, which then got me into school, which then got me into this career. So
I know that there's some alumni that I've been working with that have a little bit of time sober, and they wanted to become a counselor, for alcohol and drug addiction. And I said, I always ask them, I said, why do you want to do that? He says, for the people I've spoken with through our alumni community, they say, I want to give back. And I said, you also want to stay sober, right? And they said, yes. And do you think that's the ingredient? I mean, what I do for Gateway, what you do for Gateway, I believe this is especially through the pandemic when we had to do almost everything virtual for some time. Now things are starting to come back a little bit. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel like that helps you with your own recovery, being a counselor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, especially now seeing the people coming in and going through the detox and that reminds me, of exactly where I could be if I wasn't taking care of myself. But, it's interesting that you say that though, Jim, and I do kind of want to point it out because being a counselor and working my own program are two separate things.
Yep.
It's two different things. This is my job. This is the way I support myself and my family, right? So there's some responsibilities that go along with that I'm required to do. Whereas my sobriety is my journey, is for me, it's, and so yes, the job does definitely help me stay sober, but it's not just the job that keeps me sober, if that makes sense.
No, that we have to separate. I think mentally, both of us or all of us that work for a wonderful company like Gateway Foundation, in being able to do that. I was at a meeting this morning, and I with some staff members of one of our locations, and I'll tell you, I like what he said. It was our executive director at Independence, and he was saying, you know what? We need to have a gold standard and a plan to be able to make sure the alumni understand that we are there for you. We will never disconnect. We will always stay connected. And that's exactly what you do with, who you treat and, being able to get a successful completion, a level of care, and then being able to recommend, further services. I think that you have a great background in the sober living house. Was that a tough job?
Yes, to say the least. And it was a women's halfway house. So, it's frankly, one of the nicer ones. But it really, challenges, even with, there were mothers that were there separated from their children, so but the cool part about it is you also get to see them grow and develop, and you get to see, there's still women that I still have contact with through that halfway house that are now mothers, that are now, they are, and it's really, really, really cool to, watch them grow. As a matter of fact, I stayed on the board of directors there for a long time too, after I left, so that I could in that and transitioning and that from here to a halfway house and knowing the whole process. That's the cool thing about it too, for me, is I've worked every step of the way. So I know the whole process, not just when you leave here, but how important IOP and all the other follow-up. It's not just, you just go into treatment and you're done and you're fixed, right? There's other follow-ups and things that you have to do. So and being in the halfway house was definitely part of the process.
But I do, from my understanding, for the people I've worked with personally through the years of my own recovery, I believe that Gateway, we have it all. We have residential, we have outpatient. A lot of times in the residential facilities, we have obviously a virtual option or face-to-face, depending on which program you decide to go to. And I was just referred to our Kedzie house that has open beds, and they are taking people all the time. And then I had one guy last week ask me, he said, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, go stay in the sober living environment. Do not stop. And he says, well, what if we, can do that? So, right, we all become advocates of what we know to do what's necessary to keep people in recovery. And this today we talked about that on and on and on about continued recovery. Recovery doesn't end. So I think you believe that also, correct?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And what I think is cool too about getting involved with you and the alumni group too is that I get to be able to follow up and see some of the people
Yes.
that may have discharge from me. I got 26 guys here right now, that'll I'd like to see their transition. I'd like to follow up with them. It doesn't just end when they walk out the door here. Like you said, the services continue. We want to know how you're doing. We want to hear, even if you're struggling, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. We want to help you. We want to help you get through it. Yeah.
Well, great, Kelli. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on today. You are, vetted. I know I've got to know you in a short time, a very dedicated Gateway alum. In regards to the thinking that goes forward with that, in addition to your treatment of men that are going to greatly benefit from your services and the support of the staff and things like that. So I just want to kind of, we didn't have any comments or questions today, but that's okay. We still are doing a great job with our Gateway Foundation alum app. And this is a great way to stay connected. We know that this is probably the future for us to connect, in addition to our virtual meetings and other things that we're doing. We're doing a company-wide rebranding right now that we're going to launch towards the end of the month. And again, just being able to share as a director of alumni, or be able to comment on people's milestones and their recovery, in addition to the fact that the app has so many different things to utilize. There are lots of books, there's videos, there's podcasts, there's all kinds of links to be able to reconnect with other kinds of groups, in addition to what we're doing. So this is the future. We hope and pray. And by the way, it's so easy. Just go to Google and just, put in the Gateway Foundation alum, and it'll immediately come up. You can, use Google, or I should say, Google Play, or you can use the Apple Store, and it's free. It is literally free to you. So anything else, Kelli, that you would like to?
Just to comment on that, the whole thing, I downloaded it like in a second, literally, like last week after we had our meeting, and I was like, I'm really interested in this. And so I downloaded, it's so easy to do. Literally, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So that is so great. Well, happy Mother's Day to you and your boys and your mother. And happy Mother's Day to everybody else through this weekend. Yes, it is Happy Mother's Day this Sunday. So it's not too late. You still have a couple days to either show up or, do a gift or something. But I think that loving your mother and being part of her life is such an incredible part of what we do. And if we're in recovery like I am, it's wonderful to know that we always have a choice, and moms always will love us no matter what. I think you probably agree with me in there.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. All
right. Well, then, Kelli, you have a great weekend, and thank you all for coming. We'll be on next week. And I know where the topic is related to mental health. So we'll speak with you next week. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.